Hey guys, I'm on my way to school right now. We're going on a trip to the Smithsonian Museum, Smithsonian Museums, plural, in Washington D.C. area. So I'm really stoked. But I just had an idea about what I wanted to make a video on. I more so had clarity of an idea because I kind of have like feelings and thoughts and things I want to say, but putting it in the right context, presenting it the right way, and saying it the right way, coming from the right angle is important. And I've been struggling lately because I grew up in the church. I grew up as a Protestant Christian, basically, not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I've had some experiences. Well, now that I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I can see differences, and I can see a lot of things I'm really thankful for, and I can see a lot of things that are stumbling blocks in the other Christian beliefs, specifically where I came from, Protestantism. So instead of trying to be like making an anti-Protestantism video, which I'm not trying to do, I'm not trying to be against Protestantism. I'm mostly just trying to talk about the things that are just talk about some things that are wrong, and people believe them, so that's where you have to be careful, because you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings and tell them that they're wrong. But some things are not true, and it's very helpful when you can spell things out and eliminate a lot of mystery. But anyway, I'm making this video in the affirmative, basically. So instead of doing it a different way, I'm doing it this way. And I just want to talk about my favorite things about the church. And when I say the church, I mean the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the church. One of my favorite things, I'm just going to start. One of my favorite things is callings. Once you're a member in the church, you'll have a calling extended to you at some point. And callings are awesome. They come from God. They come from God through revelation to His servants, and they are extended to the person. And it's an option. It's a calling. You've been called. You can take it or not. And it's up to you to accept it or not. And you can pray about it, and you can know whether it's a good idea or not. Sometimes it's a little hard to know if it is a good idea, but generally speaking, if the Lord calls you, and if your church leaders are calling you, that most likely means the Lord is calling you. You can have faith and trust that, and just go ahead and accept it. And you'll never be sorry, unless you have an overwhelming feeling from the Lord that this is not the right thing, that this is not, which is that's a very unusual situation, I would say. But yeah, callings, and once you accept a calling, you have that calling, that responsibility for a certain amount of time, whether it's a Sunday school teacher, primary teacher, elders quorum president, second counselor in the branch presidency or bishopric, or Relief Society president, all these different kinds of things. And some of them come with more responsibility, or more responsibility on a greater scale, I guess, than some others, but they're all so important, And I just think it's awesome that that's the way the church, I think that's awesome that that's the way God's true church functions. He doesn't put a man in charge, like a pastor or a priest, who decides who gets what and who goes where. Instead, his branch president or bishop and the counselors are in constant vigilance over the branch or board, and they, by revelation and by agreement, they agree on, they have to pray about it and then see if the Spirit accords. Then they say, okay, well, we think that this so-and-so, we should extend a calling to this person. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And so they go ahead and do that, and then it's depending on the person whether they say yes or no. So there's just a lot in that system and in that process that gives you a lot of option and freedom, and as well as you avoid this whole concept of I am putting you here, and you're going here, and I'm putting you here. it's not like I've worked a lot of jobs, and I've worked a lot of grocery store jobs, and I've worked with bad managers and good managers, and there's a lot of times where the managers, you're faced with the manager and he says, I don't care what you think, I don't care what you want, I'm putting you here, I don't care what you think, this is just the way it is, there's nothing you can do, I don't care what you say, I don't care what you think, I'm putting you here, and I'm moving you there, and I'm putting him here, and I'm putting her there, you know? And it's not like that in the church at all, and I just love that. I love that. And it's also not a big club. It's not a big club like where, well, you're so-and-so's daughter, so you get this preferential treatment, or you're John so-and-so's son, so you're gonna get the elite exclusive privilege. It's not like that at all. It's like, no, we're all children of God. And on the other side too, if you want a calling and you specifically feel called in a certain way or something, you can come to the bishop or the branch president or one of its counselors and be like, I really feel like, I don't want to interfere with the process or whatever, but like, I really feel like I would be good in this place, or I really feel like I would do a great job here, or I feel like this would be a really great fit for me, or something like that. And they'll say, oh, okay, and they'll listen to you, and then I'm not saying they will agree with you or that they will go through with what you're saying, but I'm saying they'll listen to you, and they'll consider it, and they'll pray about it, and they will see what the Spirit says about it, and if it's right, they'll go through and do it. It's awesome. There's just a lot of really cool things like that. So yeah, one of my favorite things is callings for sure. One of my favorite things is ongoing revelation, and I'm just going to expand and say that, not just ongoing revelation, like general conference twice a year, we hear from the prophet and his counselors and the apostles, who are all prophets and revelators and seers. Not only do we get that, right, but we have the Book of Mormon, we have additional, so the other part of my favorite things is additional scriptures. So yeah, we have the Bible, and we believe the Bible, but the Bible is not the be-all, end-all. And we know that it's not the be-all, end-all. And it's such a wonderful thing that it's not. It's such a wonderful thing that we don't believe that it's the be-all, end-all. Because it's a really pigeonholing type of thing to just say that, well, the Bible is all there is, and it's the only thing, it's the only source of truth. It's like, there's not really a lot of depth when it comes to explaining why or proving why the Bible is the only source of truth or is the ultimate authority. Like, those arguments run really short and just don't hold up. But regardless of that, we know that the Book of Mormon is scripture. We know that there were people in ancient America. We know that God had chosen people here too, that he led here, and they lived lives, had civilizations. There were people here just as important in America as there were in Jerusalem. And God loves all of us equally. He loves us all, And so we have the scripture, the Book of Mormon, which is the history of those people, which is just as important as the Bible. I mean, why would one people be more important than the other? Why would one scripture be more important than the other? We have the Doctrine and Covenants, basically kind of like church policy in a way, but more so like the foundational revelations of the church. And that's a wonderful thing. And we don't see that added to very often, but it can be. There can be official declarations, official declarations here and there. It's just really awesome. So ongoing revelation and additional scripture, that's one of my favorite things, because we definitely need help, We can't just, nothing against people who believe that the Bible is all there is, and that, and they put a lot of faith in this 2,000-year-old book, which is great. It's fine. That's great. But I feel like God would not put us all on expert mode. Not only would he not put us on expert mode, but it wouldn't be fair to put all of us on expert mode, because not everybody understands and believes. And so why just give us the Bible and say, well, yeah, this happened 2,000 years ago, it's been translated in different languages, and it's up to you to understand what it says, believe what it says, and know what I mean, and know what I want for you now. That's expert mode, and that's why a lot of people struggle and they get so lost in their beliefs, is because they don't really have, it's like their glasses, they have glasses, but it's a really, really, really old prescription. And they're old, they're foggy, they're scratched up, they're glazed. That's what the Bible is, basically. I'm not trying to say that in a bad way. I'm just saying in an ultimate sense, in a singular sense, where when you only have the Bible, that's kind of what it's like in a way. Because it's not really, it's great. And I'm not trying to knock the Bible. The Bible's wonderful. But I mean, like, if you only had the Bible, that's what it's like. It's like, oh, well, no offense, but it's kind of a handicap. You'd be handicapped. So, and God knows that. He knows us. He knows, and that's why He gave us. That's why we have the Book of Mormon. That's why there's modern prophets and apostles. He knows we need more direction. We need more clarity. We need more explanation. We need more. Times change. People say God doesn't change. And yeah, He doesn't change, but times change and people change. And they say no, people really stay the same. It's like, well, yeah, but to a point. I agree, to a point. Times change, and the needs of people are different. They're the same, but they're different. And that's why we have modern prophets and apostles, so we can understand what the Lord wants us to know now, in our time, now, today. And the fact that God still speaks to us today is not a surprise. It's amazing. It's a miracle, basically. It's amazing and it's wonderful. But it's like, why wouldn't He, right? Of course He does. Why wouldn't He? Why wouldn't He speak to us today? Why wouldn't He? You know? And people have theories about why He doesn't and why He shouldn't and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, why wouldn't He, dude? Like, He loves us and we love Him and we're His children and we need to hear His voice. So why wouldn't He speak to us? He does. So yeah. Callings, some of my favorite things. Modern revelation, ongoing revelation, and additional scriptures. Just meaning additional to the Bible. I'm not even embracing sola scriptura in any way, shape, or form. Sola scriptura is an evil doctrine that is not of God. So those are two of my favorite things. One of the other favorite things of the church, I'd say, is just how loving everyone is in general, and how much fun it is, how much you can feel the Spirit, and the difference. And this is, I think, I don't know if everybody feels this, because I don't know if this is just me. I don't think it's not just me, but I mean, I don't know to what extent everybody else feels this or recognizes this as well. But when you're a member in the church, you feel the Spirit. And when you go to General Conference, or you watch General Conference, or you go to church or the temple, you feel the Spirit. And the Spirit ministers to you, and you're like, oh shoot, yes, this is true. Or oh my gosh, I need this comfort right now. Or oh my gosh, I just need this. I have this confirmation right now that's confirming me. It's clearing all my suspicions, and this is confirming what I believe is true. Yes, the Spirit. That's the Spirit. But when you're in the world and you're around your normal everyday folks, like in my family, I'm the only member in the church in my family. I'm the only member of God's true church in my family, in my immediate family, present family, living family that I know and that I'm around. And there's not really anyone at school that is a member. There's like a couple people. One of them is my friend, but two of them are my friend. One of them I see more often. But pretty much everybody else is not. Like 99.9% of the students, staff, and faculty at my college are not members of the true church. And so when you're around people who aren't members of the true church, you can still feel the Spirit. But then when you stop by someone's house who's a member and they go to your church, they go to your branch or whatever, and you stop and talk to them, it is so different. You feel the Spirit, and you're like, oh shoot, this is so awesome. It's like, for me, it's like, I can talk to you. It's like, oh my gosh, I can talk to you. I can talk to you, and everything's going to be fine. In other situations with people who don't have the Spirit, it's like, you kind of have to work a lot hard. You kind of have to work a lot harder in a way. It's like, you kind of have to work hard to understand, or not to understand. You have to work hard to be understood. That's how I feel. And I just feel like there's not that understanding, and people understand on some level, but they're massively asleep, no offense, on another level. But people with the Spirit, who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, people with the Spirit, it's like, oh, shoot, yeah, no, that's so true. And like, we all get kind of lost sometimes in the world, and the world has an influence on us, and it brings us back down to ground zero when we are back with the saints at church, etc. And we're around them and we feel the Spirit more. When we come to our senses, I'd say, let's say, feeling the Spirit and doing and thinking and being the way we're supposed to is really coming to our senses. So when we come to our senses, it's so much better and different. But yeah, that's just one of my favorite things. So I think the Spirit is one of my favorite things. Yeah, the companionship of the Spirit, the way you can feel it around other members, the way you can feel God's love and the people around you, specifically members of the church. It's really amazing. That's one of my favorite things too. My other favorite thing is the Book of Mormon. I've kind of touched on this already, but the Book of Mormon, because, like I said, it helps you understand the Bible. It helps you understand more about God's plan for us and His design. You know, it's amazing. And just to move along here, another one of my favorite things is in the church is Joseph Smith. And the story, it's not a story in that it's not true. It's a story as in this really happened, but this is the way it went. This is a list of events that happened, and collectively we call it a story. That's what I mean by story. The story of the Restoration, the story of the church, the story of the First Vision, the story of Joseph Smith's search for truth. You know, it's so fundamental, it's so amazing. And I mean, members of the church, especially people who've been in the church for a long time, they're like, yeah, you know, this is such an old school concept. Like, I've understood this for a long time, you know. But everybody has different perspectives, and like, since I'm a newer member, I have a different experience in certain ways, a different perception in certain ways of things. But anyway, what I've gotten is, and I can tell you this, it's a modern day miracle, but it's OG at the same time. Trying to figure out how to say this here. This is something that happened in like 1820. This happened like in 1820. Like, that was a long time ago. This happened a long time ago, and yet it is such an amazing and important universal story that we all need to know, because it helps us with our problems. And most people don't even realize they have problems. The problem I'm talking about, the problem of knowing the truth, the problem of having clarity about this or having clarity about that. And from my experience in my life, many people don't even get to that point where they're like trying to figure out what's true. More people nowadays are doing it, but like, I feel like people just kind of go to the church that their family went to, or they just go to the church that they go to. Sometimes they go to a church and they have a bad experience, so they change churches. Sometimes they don't like the pastor, or the pastor doesn't like them, and they change churches, or whatever. But as far as really, when you get down to it, like, I followed basically like the path of Joseph Smith in a lot of ways, and I was going to church and I was asking the questions, and my question of where do I belong, where do you want me, Lord, evolved eventually into which church is the true church. Because see, at first, I never even imagined that there was a true church. I just something smells like bologna in a way. So funny. Yeah, probably not that. It's more like kind of onions in a way. It's the onions in the soil out in the field, most likely. Anyway, side note. Shoot, I wish I hadn't lost that thought. Oh my gosh. I didn't even know there was a real church. I didn't know there was a true church. I never even conceived that any of the churches could be real, because I was under the illusion that I had been taught from Protestant churches I had gone to that says there is no true church. Or actually, they talk about the true, they don't really talk about the true church so much, but they do talk against other churches. They don't talk about the true church in that language, in that tone of using, like, well, this is the true church. They talk about the church being not a building and it being a body of people. So the church, as it was explained to me through Protestant church, was the church is a body of believers. It doesn't need a building. The true church, they would always kind of denounce their own church, the Lighthouse Community Church or the Faith Baptist Fellowship Church or whatever. They wouldn't necessarily bash it because they don't want to be self-defeating, but they would never say something like, this is the true church, this is where you really belong. They would never say that, really. And I know there's humility involved in that, and there's also, like, you don't necessarily hear that in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I mean, you do sometimes, and it's true. But there's just a different concept there about there being a true church. And so I never really knew that there was a true church. Like, when I was trying to figure out where I belonged, where God wanted me to be, I just felt like there was somewhere he wanted me, and I need to figure out where that was. So where I'm getting chilled right now. Where is it? Where is it, Lord? Where do you want me to go, Father? Just tell me, please. Just tell me, let me know. I'll go there, I'll go there. I'll do it. I'll go there. I don't care. Where do you want me to go? And in that process, when I was in that place, and I was I was keeping my eyes and ears open to God, and this is what led me to the church. I went to the Catholic church. I went to a Catholic church a couple times with my cousin, who's a Catholic. I didn't go to an Orthodox church. I investigated the Seventh-day Adventist. I investigated the Seventh-day Adventist church a little bit. I didn't really feel like that was. I didn't go to one of their services, but I had some of their books. I had one of their books, The Great Controversy, and I looked into it a little bit. But I didn't really feel like it was. I didn't really feel like that was legit. I felt like if I go in this direction, then I'm just choosing a direction. I'm just really choosing this direction, and I'm just going with it. That's how I felt. When the Book of Mormon was presented and the Church of Jesus Christ was presented to me, it was prevented to me as well earlier in life by people telling me it was wrong. It was prevented from me, but it was also, I love that, it's prevented and presented. Prevented and presented. But eventually, when it was presented to me, the tricky thing was the part that it didn't really confuse me, but it gave me pause. The part that gave me pause was the fact that I felt God saying, he was saying yes, very patiently, very kindly, very quietly, saying, yes, this is right. And when God tells you something's right, and you have a relationship with him enough to where you can hear his voice or feel his voice, when God tells you something's right, you really don't need anything else besides that. You literally don't need anything besides God telling you something's right. And so he told me it was right, and I knew it was right. I knew it was right because I could feel it. I could tell. But again, I kind of felt in a way like, compared to like the Seventh-day Adventist church or like different things, I was just like, in a way, it still had that unusuality to it, right? That unfamiliarity to it. Yeah, unfamiliarity. And I didn't really know, like what is this? Like this is different. This is different to me. I don't really recognize this. Sorry guys, I'm just looking for the right parking lot here. This is new, this is different, this is unfamiliar, this is uncharted territory, this is unusual. What is this? I don't really know. But then God is saying, this is right. This is where you belong. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, dude, I can't even comprehend that right now. That's how I felt. I was literally like, I can't even comprehend that right now. He's like, it's okay. You don't have to. He's like, you don't have to. You don't have to comprehend this right now. You don't have to comprehend it. He's like, you don't have to understand it. He's like, you don't have to. He's basically just like, you're here right now. You know and understand that this is true in some way. You've been praying. You've been praying and asking to know what's true, what's right. And here I am. I'm telling you about it, And that's a really big deal, And that's really all I needed to know. So it's a lot, but you don't have to. The cool thing about God is how patient He is. And I guess that's another one of my favorite things about the church is everyone respects where you're at. And they know, like, especially when I first joined, they gave me so much space and love and respect. And that was really amazing. Because here I am, the new guy, and people were talking to me with such respect. And I was just like, oh, guys, I'm the new guy. Like, I don't even know anything, all these things that you know really yet. But it was just a really special experience. I've got to get off of here because I'm at my destination here. I'm at the bus. I'm going to get on the bus here for this trip. But I hope you enjoyed this video. And perhaps you've even felt the Spirit here towards the end. Feel a lot of peace and comfort from the Spirit. And whenever you feel peace and comfort, that's the Spirit. It feels like home. It feels like comfort. And sometimes it's more peaceful than what you're used to, and that can throw you off. And sometimes the quiet is unusual. The quiet of the Spirit is unusual sometimes, or in places. It's more peaceful, and it's because it's more peaceful than you could have comprehended. It's more peaceful than you're used to. And so it can be a little scary. But really, what's happening is all that crazy stuff that's on you and in your mind and on your person is falling away because it can't withstand the presence of God. It can't stand the peacefulness of God. And so it falls apart. And it can be a little scary when those things happen. Just like when I was saying before in my other video, when the onion peels started peeling off my mind. The onion peels of unbelief or the onion peels of false beliefs, of mistruths, untruths, illusions, lies, deceptions. When those things start peeling off, it can be scary because it leaves you open, it leaves you more vulnerable. But it's more so you just feel more vulnerable. You feel more open. And then you realize, oh snap, I didn't need that stuff anyway because it wasn't true. And you go, oh shoot, I don't even need that anymore. Now that I don't need that, I have so much room for all this other stuff. So fill me up, God. Fill me up with all this good stuff, Fill me up with the good stuff. That's what I want. And He's like, all right, here you go. So anyway, I'll see you guys later.